Welcome back to the channel, guys. In between Cyberpunk 2077 and the video I'm working on for the end of the year, hopefully I release it on time, I managed to squeeze in another RPG. One of my favorites on the GBA, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. The Mario and Luigi games are the third Mario RPG games after Legend of the Seven Stars and Paper Mario. It was originally released for the Gameboy Advance back in 2003, and received a remake for the 3DS in 2017, but the video is mainly going to cover the original game. The game shares a lot of similarities to Paper Mario, mainly in its combat, making use of the same action commands where pressing a button at the right time can deal more damage to the enemy. However, unlike Paper Mario, when an enemy attacks, you can actually avoid damage altogether if you press A or B at the right time. In battle, you'll be controlling both brothers, Mario assigned to the A button and Luigi to the B button. The pair will have the standard jumping and hammer attacks, but new to this game, they'll also make use of the elemental hand attacks. They'll also make use of Bros attacks, special moves that require the brothers to work together to damage an enemy, using a series of button presses in order to do more damage or continue the attack. Once you use the Bros moves enough times, you'll eventually unlock the advanced version of the moves, that when changing the button input at certain times let you change up the attack and do more damage. Like most RPGs, fighting enemies will get you XP and eventually let the Mario brothers level up, increasing their stats and then getting a bonus to level up a stat even more. You could increase your health, Bros points, attack, defense, speed, and stash. Stash serves as this game's version of the luck stat, increasing your critical hit rate and lowering the cost of items in stores. Compared to Paper Mario, it's definitely more like your traditional RPG, and a step up in difficulty as well. The game begins with the Goodwill Ambassador from the neighboring Beanbean Kingdom visiting Princess Peach. They attack her, shooting some kind of gas at her, knocking her out before they rush away. The scene then shifts to the Mario brothers in their house, getting the news of what happened at the castle and rushing to Peach's side. Once they get there, they find out that Bowser has shown up too, kicking off the usual tutorial fight. After the fight, the Toads explain that the Goodwill Ambassador stole Peach's voice, replacing it with a more explosive vocabulary. Not wanting to kidnap Peach because of what her voice could do to his castle, Bowser offers to team up with the Mario Bros to track down the villains who did this. On Bowser's air cruiser, the brothers will get their passport photos taken and then go through another tutorial fight, explaining how to control each brother individually. After getting to the main deck, the brothers and Bowser will be confronted by the villain from the opening, Cacklitta. She taunts the three of them before sicking her minion Fawful on them. Fawful is probably the character that immediately comes to mind when anyone mentions this game. How competent he is as a minion, his mannerisms, the way he talks, which comes off as a weird Yoda with dementia. This first fight with him isn't too tough, but after the battle, he uses the helmet to shoot up the cruiser, knocking it and everyone on board it out of the sky. The Mario Bros crash land on the border of the Beanbean Kingdom, walking past the bodies of Bowser's fallen crew. After a quick game of jump rope in order to cross the border, the two plumbers eventually find the King of Koopas stuck in a cannon. Before they can free him though, Tolster, the self-proclaimed king of the Starfields, extorts them, threatening to tell everyone about Bowser's embarrassing situation. Handing over all their coins, you find out the exchange rate is lousy, 100 mushroom coins equaling 10 bean coins. While you ponder the economic state of the Mushroom Kingdom, you now have to collect another 100 coins before you can free Bowser. Traveling through the Starfield defeating enemies and hitting blocks, the plumbers eventually bump into a pair of green and red colored toads, General and Sergeant Starshade. After some shenanigans and catching the pair up on what happened to Peach, they offer to help the two by teaching them Bros actions, moves the brothers can use on the field. With Luigi in the back, he can jump on Mario to do a high jump. Having Mario in the back, he can hop on Luigi and do a spin jump that lets them travel across platforms. The pair will also teach them how to use Bros moves in battle, letting the brothers do more damage in exchange for BP. Once the tutorials are done, they go back to collecting coins and stomping on enemies, eventually getting enough to pay off Tolster. Or not, as the bastard refuses to free Bowser and picks a fight instead. There's not much to this fight, using the bro moves and landing the button inputs will drop him in no time. Afterwards, Sergeant Starshade will show up annoyed with all the commotion, lighting the cannon and shooting Bowser off into the distance. Bowser's last words telling the brothers to get Peach's voice back, no matter what. After a quick trip through some caves, the brothers get accosted by knights from the Beanbean Kingdom, who are looking for Prince Peasley. Surprisingly, Tolster vouches for the two, and the knights leave them alone, allowing them to enter Hoo Hoo Village. I can't decide if the villagers here are meant to look like cactars from Final Fantasy or gyroids from Animal Crossing. Probably not intentional in either case, but still hard to overlook. Going through the village, the Mario Bros bump into Fawful again, who drops a giant statue in their way. Talking to the villagers, they eventually find a pair of hammersmiths who offer to make a hammer for the two if they can get them hoo-hoo blocks to forge with. The pair ascend the mountain, eventually confronting Horos, who challenges the duo to first a mini-game of collecting orbs and then a boss fight. His fight requires a bit of brain power compared to the last two in order to hurt him. He summons two pillars when the fight begins, hiding under one of them. Hitting a pillar will destroy it, but have him hide under the other. Essentially just destroy the pillar he isn't hiding under first, then the one he is. This will leave him exposed so he can be injured before he summons the pillars to hide again. Rinse and repeat, and he's down in no time. Climbing the mountain some more, you'll eventually find a pterodactyl named Blablanodon sitting on top of an egg, surrounded by woohoo blocks. They explain they found the egg and wanted to protect it till it hatched, which conveniently it finally does. The dragon inside sends Blablanodon blasting off again, and the Mario Bros are sucked into another battle. Not too challenging, depending on the damage you do, it'll shrink in size, changing up its attacks a little bit. Once they're taken care of, the dragon transforms into the missing Prince Peasley. He thanks Mario and Luigi for saving them, and explains he was after Cacklitta and Fawful before they transformed him into a dragon. Flying off, he tells the brothers to meet him at Beanbean Castle. Flying down the mountain and returning to the Hammer Bros, they finally forge the hammer that the brothers needed, thanks to a hoo-hoo block that fell down the mountain during the fight with Peasley. Hammers in hand, the two can smash the statue Fawful dropped before, and finally make their way down the mountain. On the way, you'll have to do a minecart minigame in order to proceed. Nothing too complicated, just get 10 jewels. Once done with that, you'll bump into the Hammer Bros again, who will teach you how to use the hammer in battle. Another tutorial down, the brothers will make their way through the area and to Beantown, which has seen better days. Talking to the residents, it turns out Cacklitta was here before, raining destruction on the town. After talking to the townsfolk, the brothers make their way to the castle and meet Lady Lima, who looks a bit familiar. She's less than trusting that the brothers are who they say they are, dropping the pair in the sewers, only letting them speak to Queen Bean if they fix the plumbing. One of the rare moments when the Mario brothers actually put their plumbing skills to work. There's nothing to it really, just plugging up holes and fixing the water flow. Getting to the end of the sewers, the brothers bump into Lady Lima again, who apparently has been locked up this whole time. Plot twist, turns out Cacklitta disguised herself, like she did at the beginning of the game, to trick the brothers to fix the plumbing and deactivate the security for the Beanstar, her true objective. The brothers make their way up to the surface and to the throne room, confronted by Queen Bean, who's been transformed by Cacklitta, starting another boss fight. The hulked out Queen Bean is probably the first difficult boss fight of the game. You can't attack her directly, as her crown will damage Mario and Luigi, tanking any hits she takes. First you have to take out her massive arms, causing her crown to fall off so you can damage her directly. She can hit the pair with shockwaves, punches, and spit up beans who join the fight. Once she's taken care of, Lady Lima says that Queen Bean is done for unless you can get her a rare soda, located in Chateau de Chucklehuck, off the Chucklehuck Woods. The chateau is eerily empty. There aren't even any enemies inside. Wandering around and getting lost trying to make their way through some kegs of soda, the pair bump into a burglar named Popple. Self-proclaimed shadow thief, like the brothers, he's there to find the legendary soda. Confronting the brothers, he summons his sidekick, Rookie, who looks oddly familiar. Unlike most bosses in the game, Popple gets his own unique theme when you encounter him. The fight isn't too hard, however Rookie will instantly counterattack every time you attack Popple, and Popple himself can steal items from the Mario Bros, using them to heal himself and stall out the fight. For this fight, I focus on taking him out first before chipping away at Rookie. Once they're beaten, the pair of thieves run off, hoping to get the legendary soda before the Mario Brothers do. Moving on and breaking a barrel, the brothers will end up freeing the owners of the chateau, Cork and Cask. The soda connoisseurs thank Mario and Luigi and explain they were trapped in the barrel by Popple. Hearing the brothers are searching for the legendary soda, they want to help by teaching them some new bro moves. The French pair teach the Italian plumbers how to use the mini Mario and Luigi dunk moves. Standing behind Mario and hitting him with a hammer, he can shrink down in size, letting him squeeze through tiny openings. Swapping positions and hitting Luigi, he can be dunked into the ground, letting him sneak under doors and pop out of the ground to find beans. After a quick trial run of the new moves to find 2 goblets, the plumbers can finally enter Chucklehuck Woods. Traveling through the woods, making a good use of their new abilities, and introducing the barrel gimmick that I really hate in this game. The brothers eventually meet the guardian of the woods, Chuckleroot. Before he lets them proceed deeper into the forest, he wants them to find 3 types of chuckle fruit first. A very drawn-out fetch quest later, the plumbers find the necessary fruit and Chuckleroot lets them pass. However, it turns out Popple and Rookie were hiding there the whole time, waiting for the brothers to get the fruit so they could get past Chuckleroot, running ahead to get to the Chocola Reserve. Catching up to them, the thieves are nowhere in sight, finding only an old man telling bad jokes to a barrel of soda. He reveals himself to be Bubbles, founder of Chocola Cola Inc. and the Chateau de Chucklehuck. He's over 1,000 years old and has apparently been spending most of the millennium telling bad jokes to the soda to make it the best soda. Somehow. Bubbles reveals that he captured Popple and Rookie, who warned the brothers about the soda, just as it comes to life and sends the pair flying. Bubbles then sicks the soda on the Mario brothers, starting a boss fight. The chucklehuck isn't too hard. It'll start the fight with a barrel shield you have to break through before hitting its main body. Its attacks are throwing little soda waves you have to counter with your hammer, and some soda shots you have to jump over. Once you've done enough damage, it'll shrink down in size. However, Bubbles will spin into battle to tell it a bad joke and heal it up a bit. Keep wailing on it with the bros moves, and it's over. Angry that the soda he wasted 1,000 years of his life to make was defeated, Bubbles smashes into the ground, sending the plumbers and the soda plummeting. In the cave below, the brothers get separated for a bit, Mario landing in the barrel and Luigi not too far away. It's a short segment, and the game is nice enough to send only single enemies at Luigi so the player doesn't get overwhelmed. Once he reunites with Mario, he rides the barrel down the river and back to the Bean Castle. Turns out Mario accidentally drank all the soda. Not a problem, as Luigi jumps on Mario to barf it into the Queen's mouth. Really gross. Disgusting as that was, it does the trick. Queen Bean coughing up the worm and then turning back to normal. She thanks the brothers and is caught up on the situation with Cacklitta. She then gives us some backstory on the Bean Star, its ability to grant wishes, and how only a pure and beautiful voice can wake it up and use its power, explaining Cacklitta's initial attack on Princess Peach. Despite all this, the Queen doesn't sound too worried, explaining that they already knew what Cacklitta was up to and planned ahead for it. What could she mean exactly? Before she elaborates, Prince Peasley shows up, informing everyone he's tracked Cacklitta to Woohoo University. He heads off in that direction, and the Queen tells the brothers to do the same. Before heading off though, now's a good time to explore Beantown, which has been rebuilt since Cacklitta's attack. You can get new clothes and badges for the brothers, stock up on healing items, and visit Starbean's Cafe. You know all the beans you've been finding in battle, underground or in blocks? This is where you put them to use. Using a certain number of beans or a combination of different beans, you can brew drinks that increase the stats for the Mario brothers. After you brew your first drink, you'll hear some familiar music, and who should show up but the owner of the cafe and resident ghost expert, Professor Egad. He asks for a sip of the new drink you made, going crazy for the taste before rewarding you with a greed wallet, doubling the money you get in battle. Anytime you brew a new drink, he'll pop up again and give you a new item, so it's good to get in the habit of using your beans anytime you're in town. Once you're stocked up, head east out of town and head south towards Woohoo University. Entering the university, the brothers are almost trampled as the resident scientists all come running out for their lives. Going inside, they meet one scientist who collapsed, the poor guy explaining that Cacklitta is turning everyone into monsters before he transforms himself. After beating him, he just disappears, so I guess we killed that poor guy? I know we've been fighting enemies this entire time, but Prince Peasley and Queen Bean survived/changed back to normal after fighting them, but not this poor dude. Worse, you'll fight a ton more of these guys in the area. Are the Mario brothers heartless monsters, or tragic heroes forced to put these poor people down, forced to live with the guilt and shame for the rest of their lives? Or not. Yeah, I know, I'm just overthinking it. Besides the poor scientists, you'll also run into the viruses from Dr. Mario, and in a cool reference to that game, if you match up the colors of the viruses in battle, they'll die instantly. Going through the area, you'll find all these mirrors scattered around, and eventually find a room full of statues. Hitting the statues, you can change their color, and using the whiteboard in the previous room, figure out the right order, letting a sunbeam shine into the university, and bouncing off all the mirrors. The main objective now is to do several puzzles and hitting several different switches in order to turn the mirrors, keeping the sunbeam moving until finally you can make it to where Cacklitta is. Cacklitta and Fawful have built some Peach robots, giving them her voice and using them to try and wake up the Beanstar. Things go wrong though as the Beanstar gets pissed, attacking the robots and knocking them all down below. The evil pair are confused on where things went wrong as the Mario brothers show up and square off with the evil witch. Cacklitta opens up the fight by sending out these black shadows at Mario and Luigi. If you don't dodge them, they'll fall and take damage, being hit with the 1-ton status effect, making it harder to dodge her attacks. She'll summon bolts of lightning to attack them with, whichever arm she lifts hinting at what brother she's attacking. After a bit of damage, she'll make copies of herself. Attacking a clone causes it to turn into bats you have to dodge or else get poisoned. If you pick out the right one, her clones will disappear instantly. The only way to spot her though is when she attacks, as the real Cacklitta will attempt to hit both brothers at once with lightning. After doing enough damage, her sprite will change to that creepy one from the beginning of the fight, attacking with that shadow move again. Whittle away at her, and she's defeated. The brothers having messed her up pretty badly, Fawful sucks her up into his helmet to keep her alive. Just as he's about to deal out some revenge, Prince Peasley flies in out of nowhere and wrecks his shit, sending Fawful flying off into the distance. Afterwards, you'll still have to gather up the Beanstar, bumping into Popple and Rookie again. This fight is pretty much the same as last time, except now they can fight with their own bros attacks. After the fight, a Peach robot falls near the Beanstar, angering it again as it drones on and on. This causes the Beanstar to grow in size, the Mario Bros and the thieves jumping onto it and getting dragged up into the sky. Slowly they all lose their grip as it flies up. Rookie suddenly having a revelation, remembering that he's actually Bowser. Wow, what a twist. I don't believe it. Eventually Bowser ends up falling too, and then the Beanstar explodes into 4 pieces, scattering across the Beanbean Kingdom. Afterwards, the brothers find themselves on a tropical island, inhabited by these weird-looking creatures called ohoji. They're friendly, for the most part, and this whole area is a nice break after the overly drawn-out Hooniversity. Exploring the island, you'll find little boomboxes that explain that there was an expedition team that visited this island previously in order to study the locals. You get a little bit of backstory about the ohoji and find out that you should not set them on fire, which I feel like should be a given, but I guess the expedition team were assholes. Exploring for a bit, you'll eventually find 2 temples, one of fire and one of thunder. The brothers will have to separate from each other in order to enter each palace, Mario going with fire and Luigi with thunder. In each palace you'll find a glowing orb, approaching it summoning a spirit. The spirits tell the individual brothers to touch the orbs and unlock their hand abilities, Mario gaining Firebrand and Luigi Thunder Hand. This will let them set certain objects on fire and electrify orbs. You can also use it on the ohoji to make them hostile and fight them. There isn't really a point to it as they give little experience, but do drop some decent equipment for the brothers. The hand abilities can also be used in battle as well, certain enemies taking critical damage depending on which element you end up using on them. Igniting the fireplace and electrifying the orb next to it, the brothers unlock a path to a yellow pipe that leads to the bottom of the ocean. This is another area I'm not a big fan of, as while it's brief compared to Woohoo Hooniversity, the water physics slow down your movement. And the swimming in general feels awkward, especially when mashing the jump buttons over and over again. And finally, the enemies take a huge spike in difficulty, so if you're under leveled, you could end up dying easy. Swimming through the area, the brothers will eventually find another pipe that shoots them back up to the surface. Afterwards, it cuts to a scene at the border with Fawful in bad shape. Finding Bowser, who's in even worse shape, he shoots what's left of cacklitta out of his helmet at Bowser, her spirit possessing his body but cutting to black before we get a good look of what she's turned into. Going back to the brothers, they finally make it to dry land and bump into Prince Peasley again. They catch him up on what happened to the Beanstar, and while he starts to search for the pieces, he wants the brothers to head for the Beanbean airport. Princess Peach is on her way into the country, and he wants them to greet her and be by her side. After a quick trip into town to restock on supplies, I head to the airport, where of course, there's a problem. The runway is overrun with piranha plants. You can't fight them as they'll just regrow even if you beat them in battle. Instead, you have to fill up Mario with water, fill up the plant, and then use Luigi to shock them and destroy them. Clear out the runway, and a large piranha plant egg on the runway will hatch, starting another boss battle. The Piranha Mom is a tricky boss. She's flanked by 2 smaller piranha plants, and if you destroy one, it will be replaced by a new one of a different color. Red piranha plants are weak to Luigi's thunder, and blue ones are weak to Mario's fire. The mom herself will change color to match her children, changing her weakness too. Bros moves do close to no damage to her, and attacking her instantly makes the smaller ones counterattack. Also, she'll heal 10 to 20 damage depending on how many matching smaller plants are on the field. The strategy I used was to make the smaller plants one of each color, attack the big one directly, and dodge the counterattacks. This fight dragged out a bit for me, especially when I figured out towards the end that it was only resisting to jumping moves and not hammer ones. So I could have ended this fight faster with Chopper Bros. Once you're done plucking the weeds, Princess Peach will arrive safely. She greets the brothers, and to their surprise, she's talking normally again. Turns out her voice was never stolen. Prince Peasley explains that he knew what Cacklitta was up to and beat her to the punch by warning Peach first. Turns out the voice that she stole was actually Birdo's. Regrouping at the Beanbean Castle, Peach talks to the Queen Bean for a little bit before wanting to pay a visit to Little Fungi Town to visit the local toad population. Leaving town, you head north to Tihi Valley. I got lost for a bit because I was too stubborn to look up a guide. After a while, I figured out where I was supposed to go, but the path was blocked by a boulder, needing to upgrade the hammers to super hammers in order to proceed. Conveniently, the hammer bros from before are holed up nearby behind the Thunder Orb gate. Talking to them, they upgrade the hammer, and I can proceed to the worst part of the game. Tihi Valley has the brothers going through a large desert area with Princess Peach. Problem is, Peach doesn't trail behind you. She walks through the area at her own pace, and if an enemy touches her, they'll instantly kidnap her, disappearing down a pipe. You have to go down there and beat the enemies in order to save her. This entire area is a giant escort quest. The best approach is just to clear out the enemies around you, standing in front of Peach to prevent her from getting too far ahead of you. It gets worse though, as there's some puzzles and switches you have to hit in order to proceed, and if Peach leaves your line of sight while you're doing the puzzle, she'll get kidnapped. Also, you can't just let her get kidnapped, hit the switch, save her, and proceed either. Nope, you have to do the puzzle while she's with you, otherwise it'll just reset and you have to do the whole thing all over again. Once you make it through this hell, you're naturally confronted by a boss, this weird tree rock golem, Trunkle. Trunkle is something of a newbie trap. He's a lot harder if you don't know what you're doing. Attacking his main body will cause him to split into smaller versions of himself, using a variety of more attacks to fight him. But if you focus all your efforts on the tree instead, you'll drop him in 2 turns, which is what I did. Once that's all done, you can enter Little Fungi Town. This place really makes me miss when Nintendo would let NPCs and the spin-offs have unique looks. The Paper Mario series wouldn't be as bland as it is now if the Toads had different looks and designs like they do in this game. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Here in Little Fungi Town, you could buy some upgraded clothes and badges, one of which is the absolute broken Mush Badge. The Mush Badge comes in 3 variants that you unlock as you progress through the story, with them being able to boost the brothers' attacks based off of the amount of mushrooms in their inventory, each variation of the badge upping the boost they get. When combined with an accessory you unlock later, you can break the difficulty of the game. Apparently though, the remake nerfed the badge to keep it balanced. After stocking up on items and talking to the residents, you can talk to Peach, who's sitting at the embassy, who wants to hang out there for a while. With nothing else to do, the brothers head to the game arcade, playing a minigame and getting a cameo from Gino from Super Mario RPG. Despite it being a cameo, this was huge to see back in the day, and was a strike against the remake as it removed the cameo. After getting the high score, the brothers win the coveted Invisish room that was hyped up before. Unfortunately, after eating it, Mario gets poisoned. Hilariously, in a sorta realistic take, Mario essentially has food poisoning. Because he's not a local, he's not used to the food here. Kinda like how they tell you not to drink the water in Mexico if you're visiting. However, if Mario isn't cured in time, he'll turn into a bean. So it's up to Luigi to go to the local rooms to find the remedy to cure him. Luigi being... well, Luigi is terrified of going, especially after the doctor warns him of the terrible monster that lives there. Peach pressures him into action though, but even with him under your control again, he's too terrified to act, or jump for that matter, making it impossible to leave town. Thankfully, there's a helpful hypnotist who lives in town, a Magic Koopa dressed as a white mage for some reason. They hypnotize Luigi into thinking they're actually Mario, giving him the courage to finally proceed with the plot and head to the ruins. The entrance to the ruins being just outside Little Fungi Town, around where we fought Trunkle earlier. The ruins are near Hoo Hoo Mountain, with Luigi having to play what amounts to a game of baseball before being able to enter the ruins. There are enemies here, but nothing Luigi can't handle on his own, thankfully, most of it just being hitting blocks and switches to proceed to the next area. Towards the end, you'll come face to face with the monster the doctor described, who looks more like Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple. He challenges Luigi to dodge his fireballs for 30 seconds before he's allowed to find the Krabby Grass for Mario. It's pretty easy really, just keep an eye on the platforms as they move and you can easily jump over them. Thankfully, there's no boss fight, and you're allowed to get the grass, leave through a pipe, and head back to Little Fungi Town. On the way back to the embassy, Luigi gets hit with a bolt of lightning that snaps him back out of his hypnotism, which I completely forgot about during this whole segment. Heading towards the embassy, more lightning rains down from the sky, Bowser's clown car appearing, with Princess Peach captured. Cacklitta shows up, now calling herself Bowletta as she possesses Bowser, some of his features changing to match hers, even growing tits, for some reason. Don't think about it too hard. Bowletta flies off with the captured Princess Peach, and afterwards, Luigi rushes to cure Mario, and explains what just happened. Skipping to Beanbean Castle, the brothers fill the queen in on what happened, and Lady Lima delivers a message from Bowletta. She gloats about having the princess and will only give her back if you find the pieces of the Bean Star. With no other options, the brothers have no choice but to comply. Luckily, Prince Peasley has narrowed down where the pieces are, and bets the Mario brothers almost 100 trillion mushroom coins on who can collect them all first. After he flies off again, Toadsworth tells the brothers to head for the star piece in Tihi Valley. Once there, they find the star piece on a derelict ship, a pair of skeletons grabbing the piece and taking it down below. Exploring the ship and talking to the crew, you find out that this is the SS Chocola, a ship that somehow got stuck in the desert hundreds of years ago when they were supposed to be delivering soda. Exploring a bit more, the brothers' path is blocked because they aren't a part of the crew. Entering a central area, they can play a barrel minigame with Skeleton Donkey Kong. Essentially, you just have to match a row of barrels with the same colors, moving the barrels around until you get one color. Once you get the high score, you'll get a membership card that lets you go down further. You'll spot the star piece again, but the crew will only give it to you if you can get the fat skeleton who is stuck free. Talking to the crew, you find out that the fat skeleton was responsible for explosives for some reason. Searching around, you'll find a piece of the floor you can smash with your hammer, knocking a stick of dynamite next to the fat skeleton. Go back down, light it, and watch it go boom. Sand seeps into the hull, pushing the ship out to sea at last. The excitement from the crew doesn't last long, as they hit a large rock, sinking down to the bottom of the sea. In the ocean again, the star piece floats away, the bros chasing after it as it floats past a locked door. After you light the fire to unlock the door, you can start the most tedious part of the game. I know I complained about Tihi Valley before, but as annoying as protecting Peach was, it wasn't that long. This however felt like pure hell, as so much of it feels like unnecessary padding to stretch it out so much longer than it needs to be. For context, the 3 remaining star pieces can easily be gathered in less time than it took to get this one. Alright, let's get this over with. After getting past the locked door, you'll take a pipe back to the surface. Back on the beach, you'll overhear a bunch of locals talking about how someone named Hermie found this bean-shaped thing and decorated themselves with it. Following them, your path is blocked by this big fat Koopa guy. So for now you can only head north, into this massage place called the Relaxation Room. Paying the receptionist 200 coins, the brothers are treated to these hand massages from 2 jellyfish ladies. Wait, hand massagers? Did Final Fantasy VII Remake get this idea from this game?
And finally, some gentle stimulation for the palm. No more than a touch. Just like this. Oh, what was that? A cry of pleasure? Is this how you like it? How about this? Or maybe this?
Okay, moving on. During the massage, the sisters discover that the brothers have elemental hand powers, revealing they've mastered them as well. They take them down below and teach them new bros moves. With Mario using the firebrand on Luigi, the bros can dash fast and crash into objects to move them. With Luigi using Thunderhand on Mario, they can get stuck together, letting them move horizontally and using Luigi's back to push Boo statues. Like every other pair of siblings you met in the game, they ask you to get something for them. Essentially a practice run for your abilities. Once that's done, you can leave the massage parlor, dash into the Fat Koopa, and proceed with the area. I'm going to give a very abbreviated account of this next area, as it is just so damn annoying. Essentially, you have to build a path to Hermie, hitting various switches, blocks, and boost statues that unlock more and more of the path. Once all that nonsense is done, you'll see the 3 women from the beginning of the area decorating the shell for the hermit crab Hermie, the beanstar piece sitting at the top of his shell. The brothers introduce themselves, getting the women's attention, which pisses off Hermie, starting a boss fight. Hermie doesn't have any complicated attacks. The fight consists of taking out his claws first before attacking him. Do enough damage to him and he'll hide in his shell to heal himself up. You can get him out of his shell though by setting the shell on fire with Mario. Rinse and repeat enough times and you've beaten him. You'll get your first star piece and you can make your move on to the next one in Chucklehuck Woods. Thankfully this next part is really brief. As you make your way through Chucklehuck Woods, you'll find another fat Koopa blocking your way forward. Smash into him to proceed, meeting a snail who won't let you pass as the area is only for members of their race, the Winkles. Those racists. Heading south, the brothers can pay 500 coins to enter the Winkle Coliseum. Winning in their arena gets the snails to acknowledge you. Despite being an arena, you're not actually doing any fighting. It's a mini game where you turn the brothers to bounce rocks into these Octorok looking things to get points. Get the high score, get acknowledged by them, and proceed to the next area. Here, you'll see the beanstar piece hanging off this snail goddess statue, and a certain someone grabbing it. Cue boss fight with Popple. He's all on his own this time, but can be really annoying as he can steal one of the brothers' hammers for a few turns, making it hard to counterattack some of his moves. But without any backup, he goes down fast. Once you stomp him into the ground, you got the second piece and can move on. Heading back into town, I head to Starbean Cafe and brew another drink, getting the Great Force, which looks kind of familiar. And I can now breeze through every single encounter. Great Force works by doubling the damage you deal, but also doubling the damage you take. In theory, a nice risk and reward system. The problem, like I brought up before, is that when combined with the Mush Badge and an inventory filled with tons of mushrooms, as long as you hit enemies before they hit you, you can destroy them without any real risk. Despite the nerf they put in the remake, I get the feeling they understood they made this combo too OP here, as a few bosses towards the end are still tough despite the combo. Leaving Beantown, we're heading back towards the airport. Pushing the Boo statue to unlock a new path, the brothers are introduced to Harhal, a fashion designer. They're in need of new assistants to make new clothes, and will pay the brothers with the Beanstar piece they found. It's another minigame. This time you fill Mario up with water and use Luigi's hammer to fire a water shot at flying bombs. Harhal will tell you a color they want and then a pattern for the design. Hit the right bombs or mix them together to get the right design. Do it 3 more times and you'll get the 3rd Beanstar piece. Next stop is the Yoshi Theater. When you make it there, you'll see the Beanstar piece hanging off a sign. In front of it is some weird guy in a Yoshi egg costume. Turns out he's Bubbles' younger brother, Bottle. How the hell do these guys live so long? Do the bean people just have crazy long lifespans? Anyways, this guy's obsessed with the Yoshis, and he'll trade you the Beanstar piece if you get him 7 neon Yoshi eggs. In order to get them, you have to feed bean fruits to 7 starving Yoshis that are scattered around the Yoshi Theater. Talking to an old man in a theater, he'll tell you where to find them. Thankfully, they're close by and super easy to get to. Chances are you may have actually found a couple by now. In certain areas, there are plants that circle around an empty spot, hinting at something hidden there. Dunk Luigi into the ground and have him pop up to find the fruit, just like you do the beans. There isn't much to talk about with this side quest except one part. At a certain point, Luigi has to separate from Mario, and just as he's about to get a bean fruit, a piranha plant eats it. It's a simple fight, Luigi's thunder doing critical damage on it, but during the fight you'll notice it shooting something odd from its mouth. Once you beat it, you'll get the fruit and save Prince Peasley. He somehow got shrunk down and eaten by this thing. It's not explained at all how this happened either, but hey, whatever. Luigi comes in like a bro, uses his hammer to return him to normal, and Prince Peasley thanks him and flies off again. All fruits gathered, head back to the Yoshi Theater, feed the starving Yoshis, get the eggs, and finally trade them for the final piece of the Beanstar. Returning to the castle, the Beanstar is restored, just in time for Bowletta to send another message. She tells the brothers to meet up at Joke's End, and thankfully you can't cross the sleep wall in order to get there. After Queen Bean gets confused about what gender pronoun to use for Bowletta, maybe she should have it in her Twitter bio or something, Prince Peasley suggests giving them the fake Beanstar instead of the real deal. Also, he makes good on their original bet, handing over almost 100 trillion mushroom coins, which at the current exchange rate equals 99 bean coins. Jesus Christ, did the Mushroom Kingdom turn into Zimbabwe overnight? How could the inflation have gotten so bad since the beginning of the game? Was it because Princess Peach got kidnapped? Does the economy go to shit every time Bowser kidnaps her? How have the Toads not revolted and dethroned her yet? Well, gotta save Peach fast before it gets even worse. Before proceeding to Joke's End, the brothers will have to upgrade their hammers one more time to get past a black rock blocking their way. New hammers in hand, they'll meet this guy on the beach who tells them they can surf on the water. Since they don't own a surfboard though, they can go with the next best thing, Luigi. Shaping him into a surfboard, Mario skips across the water and heads north, on his way to Joke's End. Joke's End is this creepy abandoned ice fortress. When the brothers arrive, they're greeted by this ghost girl, Jojora. I think she's a ghost girl anyway. Could be some kind of ice spirit, but it doesn't really specify. The brothers explain why they're there, and Jojora has no idea what they're talking about, being completely unaffiliated with Bowletta and her plans. She says go nuts and go through Joke's End, but warned it'll be more difficult than what they were used to before. She's sorta right. The enemies are trickier to avoid and definitely the toughest so far, but like I said before, the combo of Mush Badge and Great Force means most fights end as soon as they start. Traveling through Joke's End boils down to following Jojora, making use of Firebrand to light a stove that boils some bean soup, and creates whirlwinds that the brothers can travel on. At a certain point, a puzzle will separate both brothers for an extended period of time, using switches to unlock more parts of the path for the other, until finally they're reunited and can proceed with the ice dungeon. Eventually, you'll catch up to Jojora, who will praise you for making it to her and offers you a place to relax. She wants to reward you and asks you which one of her friends she can invite over. It doesn't matter who you choose, as her friends look and fight exactly the same, and yeah, you guessed it, it's another boss fight. It's a dual boss against Jojora and her friend. It's not tough, but you want to focus your attacks on Jojora's friend, as Jojora herself will run away as soon as her friend dies. After the fight, she runs away upset, and the brothers can finally make it to Fawful. Luigi has to squeeze under the door in order to do the trade with Fawful by himself. Things go badly immediately as Fawful sees through Luigi's deception, knocking away the fake Beanstar and stealing the real one. Looks like this time they're really screwed, but Mario has a plan, and it involves Peach's dress for some reason. Cutting to Fawful and Bowletta, they laugh and revel in their victory, finally having everything they need to grant their wish of ruling the world. Or so they think, as Mario starts laughing when he confronts them. Another Princess Peach stands beside them, also laughing, explaining that the Peach they have is a fake, and she's the real deal. Pissed, Bowletta tosses her Peach and captures the new Peach. On Bowser's Koopa Cruiser, Bowletta and Fopple confront the Peach they captured, and surprise, it was actually Luigi. Gotta give the brothers credit for coming up with a plan like that on the fly, and for Luigi being able to copy Peach's voice. Luigi has to make his escape from the ship, and thankfully this part is brief since it involves no fighting. Towards the end of the ship, Luigi will find the Bean Star, steal it, and parachute away like a G. On the way down, he meets up with Prince Peasley, who he hands off the Bean Star to. Waiting in Tihi Valley, Mario and crew are at Luigi's landing site, but a dumb bird cuts his parachute and Luigi lands off course, sinking into some underground lair. Mario makes it to his brother and finds him tied up. Turns out this lair belongs to our old friend Popple. Gloating that this time he'll beat the brothers for sure, he introduces his new rookie, Birdo, who wants you to call her Birdie. Okay, whatever. Battle time. I destroy Popple instantly, and Birdie doesn't take much longer to go down. After the fight, Popple gets angry at Birdie, who gets upset and sends him flying away before running away herself. Leaving the area, the brothers head back to Beantown, which is looking pretty bad, completely destroyed like the first time they came to visit. Turns out Bowletta has stopped screwing around, having taken control of Bowser's castle and raining down hell on Beantown, threatening to destroy everything and everyone if she doesn't get what she wants. Talking to Queen Bean and Prince Peasley, you find out most of the citizens and Princess Peach have all been evacuated to Little Fungi Town. The only option now to take care of Bowletta is to fly up to her castle. This is it, kiddos, the final dungeon. It's a good time to stock up on any healing items you might need, and upgrade the brothers' clothes if you haven't by now. Heading back to Woohoo Mountain, you'll have to speak to Blablanodon again. You know, the pterodactyl that was sitting on the Prince Peasley egg from the beginning of the game. They offer their assistance and fly the brothers up to Bowser's castle, where Bowletta already knows they've arrived. Not worried, she summons the Koopalings to deal with the Mario brothers. You have no idea how hyped this moment was back when the game first came out. At this point, the Koopalings had been missing for almost 13 years, the last time they appeared being Super Mario World, if we're not counting spin-offs or the cartoons. Their individual designs and personalities always made them stand out more compared to Bowser Jr. Also, I kinda hate that they're no longer considered Bowser's kids and just his minions. Feels so stupid. Anywho, we're going to have to beat each of them, slowly unlocking the path on your way to Bowletta. First is Iggy, who spins around the brothers, getting them dizzy and screwing up the input controls to move them. You have to figure out how the controls were inverted and slowly make your way to him, avoiding these little fireballs, otherwise you have to restart this whole segment again. Once you make it to him, you can one-shot him and a warp point opens up that sends you back to the main dungeon. Next up is Morton, who will stomp and fire shockwaves at the brothers that they have to dodge to get to him. Once again, one-shot him and move on to the next area. Lemmy is up next. He spins around the brothers and makes copies of himself, having to hit the right one in order to start the battle. One shot and move on. The fourth Koopa is Ludwig, who will spin around and try to attack the Mario Bros, needing to jump at the right time to dodge him. Once again, one shot him and you're done. It takes a while to get through the next area, hitting switches and having Mini Mario go through a throwback Mario Bros level. It even has the axe you can use to drop a fake Bowser into lava. Eventually, you'll make it to Roy, who psychs out the pair by disappearing into a warp point first, and then ambushing them when they aim for the switch. Roy's fight is a little different from the rest of the Koopalings, as for some reason there's a time bomb with him that will blow up in 8 turns and instantly kill the Mario Bros if they don't beat him fast enough. Anyways, one shot him and move on. Almost done here. Next up is Wendy O. You have to separate the brothers in order for each of them to cover a pipe. One hitting her, then the other, and finally fighting her. Like Roy, the time bomb returns, and like all the rest, one shot her again. Moving on to the final Koopaling, Larry, he plays a game of tennis with Luigi, shooting a fireball at him that Luigi has to bounce back while wearing a barrel. Do it enough times, challenge him, ignore the time bomb, and finish him off. Sorry if the Koopalings sounded underwhelming, they actually are pretty decent bosses, and the time bomb is something to be worried about if you're not using the Mush Badge and Great Force. For the final 3 bosses, I do actually unequip the combo, but more for practical reasons as opposed to giving me some kind of challenge. Finally, we're in the real endgame now. Rematching with Fopple, who's in a leotard and hiding in a giant metal head of himself. The reason I removed the overpowered combo is that his moves can be very hard to read and react to, and if you get hit, you'll take a ton of damage because of Great Force, easily being able to get one-shotted yourself. He's immune to damage inside his shell, can fire eye lasers and energy balls that can be fired back at him for damage. At a certain point, his metal shell will overheat, leaving him vulnerable so you can hurt him. After the battle, he fakes giving up, getting ready to finish off the brothers instead when Prince Peasley comes to the rescue. Then he tricks the prince and is ready to finish off all 3 until Mario and Luigi send him flying off for good, exploding in the distance. I'm sure we'll never see that guy again. Saving the game one last time, the brothers finally come face to face with Bowletta. Her first form is simple enough honestly and not worth talking about. However, after you beat her, she'll set off the time bomb from the previous fights to take out the brothers, and then suck them up and swallow them whole. Welcome to the true final boss and the hardest boss of the entire game, Cacklitta's soul. This fight is brutal for a multitude of reasons, and similar to Fawful, the damage she deals and her confusing attacks make it easy to die quick when using great force. Right off the bat, you start the fight with 1 HP, and if your speed isn't high enough or you're not wearing an accessory that lets you attack first, it's very possible to get one-shotted as soon as the fight starts. Cacklitta's soul has 4 points to attack: her arms, head, and heart. Her heart is what you primarily have to damage to beat her, but it's easier said than done. First, in order to actually attack it, you have to first remove her other limbs. Once it's in sight, you have to attack it constantly before eventually she hides it and you have to bait it out again. While that's going on, Cacklitta will throw a massive amount of attacks at you. First, she creates a swirling ring of fire that the brothers have to jump over several times. Next, she'll create a giant energy ball that you have to hit with the hammer multiple times to destroy. Her worst attack in my opinion, and the one that needed me to get rid of great force, is when she spins her arms around, keeping a careful eye on her to know whether you need to jump or not. She does 3 sweeps in a row, so it's easy to take a hit while she's doing this. As the fight goes on, her attacks become more brutal, her fire attack lasting a lot longer, shooting eye beams that you have to watch her pupils in order to know when to dodge, shooting an electric ball both brothers have to bounce between each other, and finally an illusion of Fawful that will fire attacks at both brothers. Honestly, this fight is absolutely cruel with how often you get attacked and how careful you have to be when it comes to dodging her attacks. How anyone pulled this off on the old GBA screen is beyond me. Once you finally manage to beat her, Bowletta will spit out the Mario Bros and her soul will leave Bowser's body, disintegrating and finally gone for good. Bowser will turn back to normal but still be knocked out. Leaving the area, Prince Peasley shows up, praising the brothers' win and informing them he rigged the castle to explode. Like a Resident Evil game, you're now on a countdown to get out of the castle, but the 3 minutes of time they give is generous enough where it shouldn't be any real concern. Make it to Blablodon to escape just as Bowser wakes up and gets blown sky high. The poor guy really couldn't catch a break in this game. With Bean Kingdom saved, the Mario Bros and Peach bid farewell to Queen Bean and her court. Prince Peasley gives the group a large present for everything they've done to help. Boarding the airplane and flying home, the present opens up to reveal it's Bowser. One last humiliation for the King of Koopas before the credits roll. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is an amazing game and one I'm glad I got to revisit for this video. The RPG elements are more fleshed out compared to the first Paper Mario, the combat works a lot better, and it puts more emphasis on timing and skill. The writing and humor are superb, the new characters it introduces all have their charm, and the game itself has a lot of love and respect for the various Mario games. The story is probably its biggest strength as it turns the usual save Princess Peach approach on its head, with the heroes actually having a plan to trick the villain and doing it multiple times even. The music is another big win for me as the battle themes, boss themes, and music for general areas are amazing. Definitely a step up over Paper Mario in my opinion, and the cameos from characters like Professor Egad and Gino to the references to things like the arcade Donkey Kong games or Dr. Mario, the developers really went out of their way in honoring the legacy of the Mario series. Would I call it a perfect game? Not exactly. While for me it rates very high in comparison to the other Mario RPGs, it does have its issues. Certain dungeons drag on entirely too long, the game's difficulty can easily be broken at a certain point, farming for beans to increase stats can be a chore as some beans only come from minigames, and the overworld can be confusing to navigate at times, making it very easy to get lost when you're heading for a certain area. But overall, I really enjoyed getting to return to this game after so many years. And it makes me a bit bummed out that now that Alpha Dream went into bankruptcy, we won't be getting any more games in this series. I'm still holding out hope Nintendo passes the series on to new developers or somehow onboards the crew who originally worked on it. But considering what they've done to Paper Mario, I'm concerned a new entry could lose all the charm that made this series so great. And that's the video. Thanks for watching guys. Despite finishing this game in under 13 hours, this video ended up being longer than my Paper Mario one. I guess I just had a whole lot more to say about this one. Thankfully, I somehow managed to get this one out on time. I have one more video next week that won't be as long as this one. If you enjoyed my content, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and commented down below. And if you want to see more of my content, please feel free to subscribe. I'm Fuzzy Slippers, thanks again for watching my video, and have a Merry Christmas. Peace.